Capernaum is called the City of Jesus. For more than 100 years it has been living a new history, since 1894, when the Franciscan Custody took possession of the land on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, where the ruins of the city were brought to light. Some pieces of the collection destined for the new historical section of the Terra Sancta Museum have returned to St. Saviour's Convent in Jerusalem after a long restoration period in Italy. The Latin parish of Ramla celebrated the patron saints Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, those who took the body of Jesus from the cross and deposited it in the tomb. In Bethlehem, Orthodox Scouts organized an Easter festival for Christians who follow the Eastern calendar, a sign of hope in this time of coronavirus. Kalman came to Israel from the United States in 2007, and after years of study he became a scribe. He combines ancient Jewish tradition with art, as he explained during a workshop organized in the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem's Old City. Archaeological excavations in Capernaum have shown that the town existed toward the end of the Hellenistic period and developed during the early Roman period. Early Franciscan archaeologists called it a New Testament town that has its most beautiful history in the memories of the Gospel. It was in 1894 that the Franciscan Custody took possession of the land above the ruins of the city. A long documented work. From 1968 to 2003, a series of reports on the 23 excavation campaigns carried out on the Franciscan property were compiled. Of this town in the northwestern shore of Lake Tiberias, the small quarters with their characteristic basalt stone dwellings, shops and everything that made up the furnishings of the population made up of merchants, craftsmen, fishermen and farmers have come to light. In one of these campaigns, the surprising discovery of the octagonal Byzantine church. On that occasion, the house of Simon Peter came to light, which became the home of Jesus and the Domus Ecclesia of the early Christian church.
The
pilgrims pass on to us this tradition, which is very old and very strong, and which archaeology can follow step by step to its origins. We consider it a solid and important tradition. The first thing to be discovered, thanks to the work of Father Gaudenzio Orfali, was an octagonal basilica. This discovery took place between 1910 and 1920, in a difficult period for the world. Now this form of house, transformed into a church, is very typical of early Christianity. However, in this place it had a special significance, as evidenced by the words attributed to the pilgrim Egeria, who said, "A church was made on the house of the Prince of Apostles, but the walls of the house still exist as they were." One of the witnesses to this important discovery was Brother Stanislaus Lofreda. There I really felt that as an archaeologist I had to confess I was moved. I saw that what they had said in the literary sources corresponded accurately. The writings say that the house of Peter was turned into a church, although the walls are as they were in the past.
La casa è così com'era in antico.
On the 29th of June 1990, the memorial built above the house of St. Peter was inaugurated in Capernaum. Two public buildings were built in the center of the village, the synagogue and the church. In the basement of the monumental synagogue, vestiges of the synagogue visited by Jesus linked to the Eucharistic promise have come to light. It was precisely in Capernaum that Brother Francesco Patron, Custos of the Holy Land, celebrated Holy Mass during the week in which the biblical texts recall Jesus' speech in the synagogue on the bread of life. We are in Peter's house, and through the stained glass windows of this shrine, we can glimpse the place where Jesus gave his Eucharistic sermon, recorded in chapter 6 of the Gospel according to John. It is a speech, the Custos underlined in his homily, that follows the great sign of the multiplication of the loaves and fishes. In the house of Peter, Jesus performed many wonders and teachings. Equally significant is the synagogue, because it is the place where, according to chapter 6 of the Gospel according to John, Jesus makes that beautiful speech, the one on the bread of life. He presents himself as the bread of life, the bread that the Father gives and which welcomes him, the life that through him the Father gives. Therefore, it becomes the speech of the Eucharistic promise, that is what we have celebrated today. And it becomes an invitation to welcome Jesus as a person, to welcome him in his world and to welcome him in the Eucharist, to be able to receive from him the gift of the Spirit. Because the Spirit, Jesus says in chapter 6 of John, is the Lord and gives life.
And there
is also another extremely significant place here, just a stone's throw away. This is the lake, because the lake itself is a great shrine. This whole area has extraordinary significance. When we read the pages of the Gospels and we can visit these places, it is as if we can see and hear Jesus and the apostles somehow speaking and being alive.
in qualche modo parlano e sono vivi oggi.
Some pieces of the collection destined for the new historical section of the Terra Sancta Museum have returned to St. Saviour's Convent in Jerusalem. They have returned to Italy after a long restoration period thanks to the support of the Rome Foundation and the patronage of the Italian Consulate in Jerusalem.
This one is, I think, the oldest one we have on this table. This is a Saint Francis receiving the stigmata. This is from the 15th century, very old. And this picture was probably in the Mount Sion, the Holy Cenacle, where the Franciscan used to be before we came in St. Saviour.
The museum will collect paintings representing both the founders of the Franciscan order, St. Francis of Assisi and St. Clare, all recently restored paintings dating from the 16th century.
We see St. Clare holding the Holy Sacrament, and here St. Francis praying. St. Francis here is very sick.
A recently restored 17th century painting of Charles II, Archduke of Austria, in the 16th century, one of the most famous donors to the custody of the Holy Land, will also be on display.
This painting of Pope Clement will be in the museum, and we finished the restoration of this painting here in the Holy Land some weeks ago.
A restoration that also included drawings by the Italian architect Antonio Berluzzi, who worked in the Holy Land.
And these two are two designs. They are two designs of Berluzzi. Berluzzi was the architect of the Basilica of Gethsemane, but also Mount Tabor, almost all the churches we have in the Holy Land. So before he made the maps of the Basilica, he wants to show the friar what would be his project. Today we do this with computer. In this period, you see 1919, the Basilica was done 5-6 years after.
In addition to these works of art, a number of sculptures have just returned from the restoration phase.
These two angels were in the pharmacy. The Franciscan used to have a pharmacy here, and we were the doctor for the whole city.
These two angels decorated the facade of the pharmacy. The pharmacy also housed the statue of St. Anthony, the patron saint of the sick, whose restoration was recently completed. The Terra Sancta Museum makes the Christian presence in the Holy Land visible to all visitors of various religions and offers the opportunity to learn about its history and deep roots in this land. In a festive atmosphere, the Latin parish of the city of Ramla celebrated on April 24th the feast of the patron saints Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea. They were the ones who took the body of Jesus from the cross and deposited it in the tomb. This is the only church in the entire Holy Land that is dedicated to the two saints.
كنيستنا على اسم القديسين.
Our church is named after Saints Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea. Joseph was from Arimathea, i.e. Ramla, because this city was known as Arimathea in the time of Christ, so he came from here.
في أيام المسيح الرامع وهو من هذه البلد.
The celebration was presided over by Brother Abdel Masih Fahim, Latin parish priest of Ramla, and concelebrated by Brother Antonios Habib in the presence of many faithful. In his homily, Father Fahim highlighted the similarities between the two saints. Both defended their positions in the society in which they lived, and both perfumed his body after removing him from the cross to place him in a new tomb. Both later became his disciples. The presence among us of these two saints reminds us that we have a path and a message to follow. We have a commitment to live in this time of resurrection.
This feast is very important for us because it highlights our Christian belonging to the Holy Land, of which we are an integral part.
In addition to the parish, the Franciscan friars accompany the local Christian community through the Holy Land School, which guarantees high level of education through Sunday Catechism and through Franciscan youth. The Franciscan Youth Group was founded in Ramla 12 years ago. Our meetings begin with a 45-minute spiritual lesson in which we talk about the life of St. Francis, his teachings, and how they can be lived in daily life. After the meeting, we organize different activities. There is also a band. These activities are very important to bring boys and girls together at least once a week, to get to know each other and learn to play together. This also helps to build relationships between them and to have more confidence in the church. The convent adjacent to the church also bears the name of the two saints and has been welcoming Christian pilgrims for decades as part of the Franciscan Order's mission. At the end of the Eucharistic celebration for the feast of Saints Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, Father Fahim greeted all those present, who were also invited to refreshments in the church courtyard in an atmosphere of friendship and brotherhood.
يلا نعمل رياضة ونحرك فيها العضلات نرفع ايدينا لفوق وننط 4 نطات.
On the 23rd of April in Bethlehem, in the atrium of the National Orthodox Charitable Society, the Orthodox Scout Group brought a smile and much joy to the faces of the more than 300 children. They all took part in the Easter festival, which was organized for the Orthodox churches to mark the upcoming festivities. Today's message is one of love, generosity and participation. It is important to bring the joy of the resurrection into the hearts of children, so that all may be together in joy, peace and love in these difficult circumstances in which we live today. The festival started with a play that covered the meaning of the resurrection, as well as the values of scouting, followed by entertainment activity with distribution of gifts for the children.
الوضع كثير مميز ومختلف عن كل سنة. السنة هاي عشان في وضع جائحة كورونا.
The situation is very special and different from previous years because of the coronavirus pandemic. We are very happy with what the Orthodox Society and the Scouts, who are always on the front line, have done. Our children are also very happy. The program was organized outdoors and not in closed halls, with the distribution of sanitizers and masks. We gave joy to the children, especially in these circumstances, as school attendance is irregular and the economic situation in Bethlehem is difficult due to the blockade of the tourist industry.
الاقتصادي سيء بمنطقة بيت لحم بسبب السياحة.
I am very, very happy.
We looked for Easter eggs. Happy holidays.
Happy Easter.
The coronavirus pandemic did not stop the generosity of the Orthodox Scout group. Since the beginning of the pandemic, all members have been helping the needy by distributing food parcels, medicines and sanitizing products. The Easter festival brought the joy of the message of the resurrection, the hope in the end of the pandemic and the lockdown, and the expectation of a new tomorrow.
For me, I say a scribe, he writes letters. Letters are like the DNA of communication.
Kalman came to Israel from the United States in 2007. After years of study, including a period of personal lessons with a rabbi and discussions with several experienced teachers, he became a scribe. An ancient Jewish tradition that Kalman combines with art, sacred writing handed down with creativity. During a workshop in the old city of Jerusalem aimed at tourist guides, journalists and enthusiasts, he explained that a scribe for the Jews, the first one was Moses, does not make books or texts nor paragraphs, but first and foremost letters.
The letters that we're writing the Bible with today, these are connected to the letters in the language that God created the world with. For that reason, if you're missing only one letter, the whole Bible can be invalid. I compare it to a computer program. If you're a computer program and you're missing 1 0, 1 0 in the wrong place, there's no program, it will not go live.
Kalman comes here every day to a small workshop inside the complex of the 4 Sephardic synagogues in the heart of the Jewish quarter of the old city. He often takes a ritual bath in a mikveh for purification. Then prayer and study precede the actual work.
A scribe uses 3 primary materials. One is the parchment. Parchment is made from a kosher animal hide that has to be crafted, made in a very specific way. We have ink, which must be black, permanent, shiny, and beautiful. And the third thing is our quill. The quill can be made from any local resource. My quills are made out of goose feather, but you can also make quills out of reed, bamboo, and different types of feathers.
The result is the transformation of the words of the Torah into works of art.
Everything I do is in the context of Jewish law. I am not trying to reinvent anything. I'm trying to take primary text and primary concepts and manifest them in a creative way.